Greetings, Sentinels fans. I intended to do a guys deep dive this week, but last week took more out of me than I expected, so I'm just gonna sit back and do something silly instead. Some of the things included in the character bios are the characters' heights and weights. This means I can compare how tall and how heavy these characters are. And some of them get kinda funny. So, let's check out the heights and weights of different characters, shall we? Now, of all the details that C&A paid attention to when making their world, I'm fairly sure that heights and weights are some of the things they thought about the least. Why? Well, when you pay attention, they seem to try and keep the heights and weights consistent between variants and versions. This is usually pretty fair. Not going to expect much difference between the versions of Captain Cosmic, for example. With some versions you get changes because they are different people. Paul Parsons is a little taller and lighter than his father, and certainly taller and heavier than his daughter. All others though? Unless there's a notable change in the character's body, they won't change in height and weight. For example, Baron Blake gives himself artificial powers, and that makes him grow 2 inches and 30 pounds. Then he loses those by the time his powers wear off and he becomes Luminary. However, the Southwest Sentinels don't change in height and weight at all when they enter the Void Guard forms. That's fine for Medico and Writhe, but it confuses me a bit for Mainstay and Idealist. Mainstay looks like he should be bigger and bulkier now, but he's the same height and weight. Idealist looks older now as well, which for a girl in her mid to late teens should translate to more height and weight. But no, she seems to be at the same height and weight at 15 as she was at 12. Idealist isn't the only person who age hasn't affected though. Lillian Corvus, aka Matriarch, aka Harpy, is 5'5" and 120 pounds in both versions, even though she was in prison for a minimum of 5 years, and entering her 20s at the time. Just saying, entering a new living environment tends to mess with one's body, as new routines and diets are introduced. I know this because I became a skeleton in college, so there should have been at least some effect on her weight. The most hilarious instance of heights and weights being agonizingly consistent is La Capitane. She is 5'7" and 125 pounds in her young teen villain form, 5'7" and 125 in her classic villain form, and 5'7" and 125 in her hero form, La Commodora. Clearly she's doing something right, because she's managed to keep a consistent weight for 3 freaking decades. And now for your amusement, I decided to take a look at some averages. According to Google, the average height for men worldwide is 5 feet 6 inches. In America, the average height for men is 5'10". Guess what the average height for a male superhero is according to Sentinel Comics? 6'0". And of all the male characters that we have the heights for, only 4 of them are under the global average of 5'6", and 1 of them is a robot, and another is an alien, who is also technically not male. Well, who would you guess are the 2 shortest human male characters? Well, you're wrong. They're Proletariat and Writhe. I'd make compensation jokes, but I'm above that kind of crass humor. Now what about the tallest guys? Well, I don't have the actual heights for Gloomweaver or Progeny, so they're off the table. Failing them, you might assume it's Haka. It's gotta be Haka, right? He barely fits in half the art he's in. Well, while he does measure at an impressive 7'2", he only makes 3rd place. Yes, there are not 1, but 2 characters that are taller than him. The first is none other than Taragath, aka Deadline, aka Lifeline. This alien dude stands at an impressive 8'0", and even outweighs him by a good 10 pounds. You would think with that kind of size he would be more apt to punch people, but no, he seems to prefer using magic and tech. He is that D&D wizard character who also happens to have an 18-inch strength. But who is the tallest character? Well, my friends, you're gonna have to buckle up and put your caboose in gear, because the Fright Trains are coming. In the left corner, a veteran of whatever war happened last time, 8 foot 3 inches tall and weighing in at 450 pounds, Corporal Stephen Graves, aka Fright Train! This guy is bonkers huge. He dwarfs basically every other character in the cast. I kinda wanna know what he looked like before he was juiced up, but it might just end up being a disappointment. The only person he doesn't tower over is, ironically enough, the bunker suit. I didn't count the suit when I wrote up the averages because I felt it would be unfair, as the suit is 9 feet and 11 inches tall and weighs 1,650 pounds. And yet Fright Train still knocks that thing around like it was nothing. Guy is a beast. However, the base bunker suit isn't the tallest one. That honor goes to the Termination suit at 12 foot 3, but it is lighter at 1,400 pounds, probably because it's ceramic and not metal. But, moving on to the women. The average height for women in the world is 5 foot 2. Again, my source is Google. The average height in America is only slightly taller at 5 foot 3. Average height for a female superhero? 5 foot 7. So what I'm getting at here is that if you want to be a superhero, you're gonna have to start by being tall. And if you thought there would be more women under the global average, you would be wrong. There's only one woman whose height is under the global average. Visionary stands at a measly 5'1", and weighs a feather-like 97 pounds. Fun fact, unless you are Night Mist or Medico, Visionary's weight is the only one that doesn't end with a 0 or a 5. This is possibly because they wanted to show her as being less than 100 pounds. But yeah, no wonder Visionary hates Project Cocoon. Clearly they didn't feed her enough. However, another fun tidbit. Ermin is the second smallest female at 5 foot 3 and weighs just 100 pounds. She is also dating Fright Train. Yes, the second smallest woman and fourth tiniest character is dating the most giant man in the game. Man, they weren't kidding when they said opposites attract. But enough stalling. Who is the tallest woman in the game? Well, the easy answer is Skyscraper because, well, duh. But the bio doesn't actually give her height in her huge form, just her height at normal size. And while in normal size she does stand at an Amazonian 6 foot 5, she only makes second place. So who is the tallest woman? In the right corner, victor of hundreds of single combats, bearer of the Bloodsworn Force, and headmistress of the Bloodsworn Coliseum, she stands at 6 feet 7 inches tall and weighs 240 pounds. Give it up for Kagro Warfang! And you thought I was just being silly when I did the wrestling voice earlier. Though it does make me wonder who would win in a fight between Kagura and Fright Train. While that's most of the points, there's still a few I wanted to mention. For example, Mr. Fixer, Absolute Zero, Night Mist, Wraith, La Capitan, Kismet, and Citizen Dawn are all the same height. Considering how imposing Dawn is, it's kind of odd that she shares a height with a petulant kid and a character who's trying to be inconspicuous. Heck, Dawn is shorter than her own daughter, and not by a small margin either. Expatriate is 6'1", Dawn is only 5'7". That's a 6-inch difference. Expatriate is the tallest member of Darkwatch, taller than even her own boyfriend Setback. Now, there is a fair variety of weights for all the heights we get. For the most part, they are pretty reasonable, usually on the upper end of normal on the body mass index chart I found. Some of them, however, do indeed read as overweight. Now, I know that BMI is fairly inaccurate for calculating how healthy a person is, especially since BMI does not see a difference between fat and muscle. This is why characters like Proletariat and Sergeant Steel register as overweight or even obese on a BMI chart. But sometimes the weight seems off for other reasons. Take Parse. You see the picture. She has a bit of weight. However, her recorded weight for both of her variants is 145 pounds, which for her height of 5'5" would put her at the upper end of normal. According to how she looks in this art, which Adam has said is what he originally intended for her, then she should be a little bit heavier to get to the category of being slightly overweight. Now, I can rationalize this as a holdover of when she looked like this. This is her original character card as she looked when she was introduced in the 80s as the murder-happy anti-hero we all know and love. However, she then mellowed out in the 90s and 2000s as her stories changed, and her character model changed with her outlook. But her recorded weight has stayed the same. And finally, I wish to talk about Fanatic. She's 5'10" and she weighs 190 pounds. This would put her as overweight, but again, I can rationalize by saying that she's probably really muscular. After all, on top of fighting with holy laser beams, she seems to have a preference for fighting in close quarters. I imagine she's really strong. But no, it's not her I want to talk about, but her armor. Her bio helpfully provides her weight when she's in armor, and that combined weight is apparently 290 pounds. So her armor apparently weighs 100 pounds. And I have to scratch my head at that. You see guys, I'm a medieval reenactor. I've worn suits of armor. And none of the suits I've ever tried weighed 100 pounds. I even looked it up to be sure, and a full suit of armor weighs 50 pounds, not 100. On top of that, Fanatic isn't even wearing full armor. While she is covering her arms, legs, and chest, she's not wearing a helmet, and her armor doesn't even have a back. Oh, but my friends, this gets even sillier. Enter the Redeemer variant promo. When you look at this armor, you will see that it's mostly the same with the addition of the face mask. If you look closer though, you might see that there is a bit of armor covering the area where her wings connect to her body. Now her original armor, while I bemoan the lack of a back, does make sense because she needs space for her wings. But here, in her Redeemer variant, she has her wings partially covered, which suggests to me that this armor has a back as well as space to feed her wings through so she can wear it. However, this armor is also 100 pounds. So whatever stupid heavy metal she used for original armor was, she seems to have switched it out for something to add face, back, and wing covering for the same weight. And before you claim this is another case of CNA keeping things consistent, they acknowledge a weight change in the Prime Warden's variant when most of the Redeemer armor has been chipped off. You know, if she was able to switch out of her original armor for what is apparently a custom fit for her wings, one would think she'd be able to spring for a new suit. And there we have it, people. Some anecdotes about the heights and weights of the Sentinels characters. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, yada yada yada, and I'll see you next week. Take care, friends. So this means that I can make comparisons between the different characters of how high or how high they are. Really? Did I really just say that? AKA Fright! Whoa, okay.